Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel for another Payday 3 news update, because today we've got a little bit more information on the next update for Payday 3, that being update number 5. It's confirmed a few key pieces of content the update will see. It's confirmed there will not be DLC present, which, as I'll get into, I think is for the best. And on top of that, we've got a rough time frame for a release and also some B-roll footage provided by Starbreeze of some of the new features in motion. The B-roll footage isn't great, I'll warn you ahead of time, however it does put the points across fairly enough that you can see some new gameplay elements in action. If you do want to see the B-roll footage, don't worry, I'll leave a timestamp at the bottom of the video. You can skip ahead to that if you want. But what I have got here, flashbang warning, is the return of my stream news PDFs. So I'm going to cover everything that's on this list here. There's not much, as you can see. I don't even have to scroll, but I'm going to talk you through everything that's on here, show you the B-roll footage, and give you an overall view of what was said in today's stream with Liz and game director Mio, because this was the first stream in quite a few weeks that actually shared some really interesting information beyond just Armour or Liz playing the game and answering the same questions over and over again. I don't mean that maliciously, it's all they do. So I like to only report the streams that share interesting news, and this is one of them. They played a build on stream that showed you some of the stuff that was going to be in the updates, not the final build, but pretty much everything you were seeing in there, they were saying, was going to be in the game, just maybe not quite finalized. But adaptive armor is going to be in the next update, as well as all the armors having descriptions explaining the number of chunks they have, armor regen, that kind of stuff. And the big thing that I don't think had been confirmed officially until now was the skill point increase up to 28 skill points as opposed to the usual 21. So when this next update drops, you'll have 28 max skill points, and if you're already level 100, you'll get those extra 7 right off the bat. They've been sprinkled in the rise up to level 100, not 150, so by the time you're at 100, you'll have all 28 points. And it's also important to note that at level 1, you'll start with 2 skill points now, as opposed to 1. So extra ones will pop up as you progress to level 100 if you haven't already done so. On top of that, there's going to be a new skill, Clean Slate, which is a tank mastery skill, which says that when you have no armor present, 1 armor repair kit, which is only normally meant to repair armor chunks and not add them, but in this case, if you have no armor, it will give you a chunk to start you off. So that's been talked about a lot, but that is in this update. It's a tank mastery skill, and also there's a bullet point here to note some skills moving around as a result. So the previous tank mastery that was called Disengage has now been moved to become the mastery skill in the Escapist skill tree, and so Escapist mastery has now been clipped onto Escapist skill line as a 5th extra skill, basically. So everything is there, nothing's been removed, there's just one new thing being added and a few things being rejigged around to accommodate it. On top of that, the overheal system, the new health system that allows you to gain more health past your maximum that just decays over time, that's been renamed to Adrenaline, and they've also changed how it works in-game based on some feedback from Starbreeze partners and other people playing. So how it's going to work now is if you have Adrenaline present, that overheal, which will be a green bar on your screen, that will take damage before your armor, then your armor will take damage, and then your base health, which actually is far more intuitive than I thought it was going to be. I figured it would just be all under the armor. I'm very glad to see that that's not the case, because it means the health packs are just far more valuable now, and hopefully it'll shake up this very prevalent armor meta that Payday 3 has. So, very promising. On top of that, it's important to note medic bags will give you the full amount of health that you would normally gain as Adrenaline, whereas first aid kits will only offer you half of it. So if, for example, you were going to heal 20 health, you'll get 10 from a first aid kit as overheal, but if you were getting it from a medic bag, you'd get the full 20 as overheal Adrenaline. I'm going to keep getting confused between the words, I feel like, but either way. Now, there is one other thing I want to mention, which is the Fortitude skill line. This is the new one coming out. It is confirmed to be in this update, and it will be all around health and Adrenaline. There's a couple of things I want to talk about in relation to that in this list, but I'm going to save the full breakdown of that skill line for tomorrow's video, as I'm 99.99% sure it was confirmed, unless anything's changed, then it's going to be happening, that tomorrow's dev blog will cover Fortitude and break it down. So rather than me doing it in 2 different videos, it makes more sense to leave it here and talk about it tomorrow. So get ready for a full breakdown of Fortitude tomorrow if you haven't already got any of the gist of it, so it'll be in the dev blog breakdown video. But I would just mention the Stockpile Mastery skill, and that gives you 2 more charges per deployable bag, which means if you combine it with the other already existing skills to increase the amount you have, like Deep Pockets, you can now get up to 8 charges per bag in whatever deployables you have. Finally, the armor bags will actually use up those 8 slots that were present in the container for them, so nice to see that there'll be some practical use for all the slots. I like that. Moving on, we got some weapon changes. So the R900 Sniper, currently, when you fire a bullet and have to rechamber it, you get pulled out of the ADS view, pulled out of the scope, and you have to put the new bullet in, and then you can look down again. Now, you can just stay looking down the scope even while you're putting a new round in. Nice bit of quality of life for that sniper. On top of that, the Ziv Commando is also getting a buff. Mio didn't say anything else. He just kind of put that statement out on the table, and oh, I just said on the table. We're leaving it in, but that's trauma for me. But no, he said it's getting a buff. He didn't explain what kind of buff it is, just that people had complained that it still wasn't powerful enough, even though he disagreed, and has made it better. So Good to hear. They've also talked about loud modifiers. They're not being added yet as far as I know. They didn't really say that concretely, but they were asked about it and I thought it was good to mention. When these loud modifiers do get added to the game, they're not going to nerf you. They're not going to make you carry less medic bags or have your charges be less effective. It's all about the enemies, making them smarter and specifically making them adapt to certain playstyles. Again, not much the way specifics here, but that sounds like an intriguing concept. We'll see where it goes. Something you'll also see in the B-roll footage we'll get to in a minute is that now the drops you get from hostages, so first aid kits and armor repair kits, they will drop in stacks. So they'll be piled on top of each other and you can see quite clearly how many you get from each trade now. Also in the B-roll footage, worth noting that when you see the colours, the standard armor is white, adaptive armor is purple, and overheal or adrenaline is green. So there's colour differences for all of them, and those apply to your teammates in game as well as yourself. So you'll see at any point in time whether your teammates have adrenaline or adaptive armor or standard armor. And I think that's a really good play. I think that's been executed quite well, just so you can make things a little bit clearer as you're playing along. But speaking of making things clearer, unfortunately, quick play was not made clear. And this is just a little bit of a nitpick. Mio and Liz were quite hesitant to confirm some things for updates, and quick play was the biggest criminal here in the stream because they were asked about it a couple of times and they said, it's probably not this update. Now, as far as I'm concerned, they are talking about it, and I will talk about this in a minute, they are teasing now that we're going to get information for this update within the next week or two. So I would imagine everything's pretty much finalised by now, and if they're saying quick play's probably not this update, I would just say it's not coming. I would just say it's not happening and be like, it's coming in a later update, because plenty of other things they were asked about, they reply with that exact thing. I feel like if quick play was going to be ready, they'd have said it by now. It just makes sense to me. They talked about it being a bit broken right now. I doubt that's getting fixed anytime soon, but quick play is still apparently high on that priority list, so I've mentioned it as per usual. Unfortunately, the Mamba inspect animation, though, is not being fixed in this update most likely, which is where when you reload the Mamba, when you've already fired a shot, it basically pops out of the casing and just looks very glitchy. There's plenty of videos of it online. They're aware of the bug, but are not fixing it in this update. It's this kind of thing that does annoy me because it's like, yeah, it's all about priorities and I totally get that, but things like that, proper visual bugs that take you out of the immersion should really be addressed in these updates, little quality of life things that make it better. I think it's a real shame that isn't being touched. Beyond that, let's talk lastly about one more skill change, which is the misdirect skill in Strategist. It used to say that when you have Rush, you can't be downed by Cloakers or Zappers. That's gone, and it's being replaced by a new skill. It's still called Misdirect, but instead it now gives you your first proper chance at dodge in Payday 3. Is that a sign of things to come? Who knows? But it gives you a 10% chance that when a bullet is fired at you, it won't hit you if you have marked the enemy that has shot the round at you. So it's not full dodge, but it's dodge from a marked enemy, 10% chance. And to finish off the discussion, Boys in Blue, the second DLC update for Payday 3, has been confirmed to not be included in this next update, which is good, and that's the best move. If they released that really subpar update 4 last month, and then straight after that go, give us more money, that would go down horrifically, and I'm very glad they are not doing that, because I would have no defense for them. I would tear them a new backside for that. However, they have said that in case anyone is panicking, if you own Silver Edition, you're still going to get the DLC. Silver Edition covered what they said was the first 6 months of content. What that actually means is the first 2 big DLC updates, because they were plans to release in the first 6 months, but Operation Medic Bag has shifted things around. As I talked about earlier, the next DLC for the start of year 2 should happen this year, but all they've said is that there's going to be 3 DLCs releasing this year, which are the 3 we're left to get for year 1. So I don't see year 2 DLC starting for Payday 3, possibly until 2025, but we'll see. That's speculation. Either way, you will still get Boys in Blue included in Silver, regardless of when it drops. So stay tuned. If this update's coming out in April, though, I would suggest it's going to be May for Boys in Blue. That's a rough prediction for me. But either way, last thing to say is they're going to try to increase update frequency, and this ties into what I wanted to say about the update. Now, what they've said with release here is that they are getting very close to having information ready to be shared. They've said that we will know more about this update before the end of the month. And Liz also said they're currently working on the next dev update. Now, dev updates tend to come out about a week before the DLC drops, but working on it doesn't necessarily say where they're up to. Are they writing the script? Have they filmed it? Are they filming it tomorrow? Are they editing it at the minute? We have no idea. All we know is that they are working on it. So it could be they work on it next week and put it out the week after and put the update out the week after. Who knows, really? But my best guess personally, just looking at my calendar now, we have 2 more full weeks left in March. So if the dev update does come out next week, we might see the update before the end of the month. I think that's unlikely, but you never know realistically. I think the more likely thing is, they said before the end of the month is a good catch-all. I reckon the dev update will come out in about 2 weeks' time, and the update will come out first week of April. That's my prediction based on previous experience. Hopefully that's true, because it's a little bit sooner in that range of 4 to 6 weeks, but it's still not fast enough, and Liz did say they are going to try and increase update frequency because they're aware that it's just not good enough at the minute. So hopefully that means they're going to work faster than every 4 to 6 weeks. That's everything from the stream that I wanted to share. So the last thing in this video is covering that B-roll footage So let's have a look at it now. Okay, so here we are with the B-roll footage that I was sent, as I said, by Starbreeze. The gameplay is not particularly great. It kind of gives me IGN Sonic Frontiers vibes, if anyone remembers that whole playtest demo the summer before the game came out. But the main point here is showing you the adaptive armor working. You can see it just shot up again there. So adaptive armor, as I've said, is you heal the armor back up from whatever chunk you're at, as long as you don't lose that full chunk in the damage that you take. So it will replenish back up to normal after a few seconds. I do think it's a bit underwhelming. As you can see, it just jumps back up to full. There's no sound effects. There's no slow progression of the bar back upwards like Payday 2's armor was. I think that would have been a really cool idea, but unfortunately they haven't done that, which I do think is lacking slightly. Either way, you can see you have to replenish a chunk as per normal from an armor bag if you lose one, so bear that in mind when you're playing. So you'll only lose 2 chunks at most, so you won't be burning through armor bags as much as if you were using the heavy armor vests. But here we go, just leaping forward to the next section of the gameplay because there's nothing else to say there. We should now be moving on to the overheal / adrenaline section. You're probably going to hear people refer to it as both, mainly because, you know, the name has changed. But here you go, you can see first off the drops stacking. So training a hostage to get 5 of these deployables, and you can see all of them stacked on top of each other, so it's much more visually clear how many there are. And now you can see, picked up 4 of the first aid kits and had nearly full adrenaline, and now it's slowly ticking down over time. Mio did mention that if you do take any damage while you have this adrenaline active, that little wear away decay time will pause for a few seconds and then start ticking down again. So it does give you a little bit of forgiveness if you do take some actual damage while you have the adrenaline active. But you can see it in play here. And I think it's a really good thing. As I've said, it tries to balance out for the armor meta, which is so prevalent and so nasty in Payday 3 right now. And I'm keen to see how this works. I'm very, very keen to see how it all plays out. The key is going to be to balance low armor with this Fortitude skill line. If you have more armor plates, it's going to benefit you less. There's ways you'll probably be able to make it work, but it is going to be an interesting thing to see in execution. But that's the B-roll footage. That's everything there is to it. And that's everything there is to today's video. So thank you all very much for hanging out. I greatly appreciate it. And I will see you all tomorrow with whatever Devblog 4 has to offer for Payday 3. As I've said, hopefully we'll get this update or at least some news about it in the next week or two. But I'll keep you all posted whatever happens. So stay tuned and click that subscribe button if you haven't already to stay in tune with all future Payday 3 news, as well as the occasional other game video that I'm making in between. I've got some more I'm cooking at the minute. I keep saying got video essays working, but I have one that's slightly bigger that I think you'll all like, that hopefully will come out next week. That's the goal. I have a target date and I'm going to try and meet it. But either way, thank you all for watching. I'll see you all tomorrow for a new video. Look after yourselves. Stay safe. See you all then.